What is up with the James Comey grand jury transcript missing 2 hours plus? This is a great mystery, and it could have great significance for the case. What happened was, in a hearing which was meant to bring up the question of whether to disqualify Lindsey Halligan, that was the issue, disqualification. Nobody knew anything was going to come up about the grand jury transcript. A little nugget that came up that ended up exploding was that there was missing pages from the transcript that was produced for the court to review. So since a court reporter is required to be present for the grand jury proceedings, with one important exception, the specter that hours of time were not transcribed raised red flags for most legal analysts and certainly for the judge. What does this mean for the case? Let's get to it. But first, remind you to hit that subscribe button, make us the biggest and the best legal analysis and political analysis channel that there is. Your support is really helpful. Now, remember, the point of this hearing was not questioning anything about the grand jury transcript. The point of this hearing was whether Lindsey Halligan needed to be disqualified because her interim appointment was arguably invalid, according to Comey's lawyers, and if she was wrongfully appointed, meaning she was there without any actual power of a U.S. attorney, and she signed the indictment, and she was the only prosecutor who appeared before the grand jury, the argument by Comey's attorneys was that indictment out of here. It's an illegal indictment. There was no actual Department of Justice representative there. Now, an interesting sidelight, just have to point out here, during the hearing, the lawyer for the government actually made the point that if she was not validly appointed Halligan, then she also could not have violated grand jury secrecy. Now, why that odd thing came up, you recall the whole Anna Bauer thing where she was apparently texting with Anna Bauer and possibly may have violated grand jury secrecy. So the government attorney wanted to kind of cover her butt there, but that was a digression. So in this situation where they're trying to argue about was she validly appointed or not, how did the government try to rescue this? Well, Attorney General Pam Bondi had said that she could rescue this case by saying that she, the Attorney General, had ratified everything that Lindsey Halligan did before the grand jury. Remember, Halligan's first criminal case, apparently, first time she was ever before a grand jury. So Pam Bondi says she ratified it all by reviewing the grand jury transcript, and everything was fine. There's only one problem. The judge says, well, the grand jury transcript is incomplete. It's missing about 2 hours of time. So how could the Attorney General have ratified everything when she did not have the entire grand jury period? Specifically, what's missing is from about 4:28 p.m. until 6:40 p.m. It's like 2 hours of missing time. Adam Classfield was in the room, did some great reporting, and we'll put up the link in the notes, and you can listen to his full report or read it if you want. It's a great example of being in there when something that nobody expected to become a big deal becomes a really huge deal. Now, let's explain a little bit about how grand juries work, because there sometimes can be confusion about that. It is a secret proceeding. There's no judge there. It's just the prosecutor. That's why the idea of the prosecutor can indict a ham sandwich, because you just get to say whatever you want, present whatever you want there. But that has to be on the record. It's a really big deal when you go into the grand jury room. Court reporter's always there. And there's a big issue of, are we on the record or off the record? Because as soon as you're going to talk substance to the grand jury, anything about the case, court reporter has to start recording it, transcribing it. That doesn't apply to when the grand jury is all by itself, eating lunch, deliberating. It's a requirement there when the prosecutor is present and talking to the grand jury about the case. So this turns out to be really crucial. And now, first of all, Halligan said nothing about what happened during the hearing itself. I mean, she sat there the whole time completely silent. When the judge pointed out this problem with the missing grand jury pages, nada from Halligan. But a day later, she files something with the court, not while she was sitting there in the courtroom, doesn't say anything, but a day later, she comes up with a submission that says, and we'll put up some portions of it for you, she does a declaration, so put that up for you. Now, first of all, the opening is kind of on the wrong foot already. The judge didn't, quote, place the timing of the proceedings in dispute. It's like, I don't know what that's really about. Nothing about the timing of the proceeding is in dispute. What's in dispute is the judge placed the issue of how could Pam Bondi ratify everything if the transcript is missing 2 hours of the grand jury proceedings. That's what's in dispute. So as usual, Trump DOJ lawyers start off with an argument that is like just totally off in left field and kind of trying to blame the judge, right? The judge is placing the timing of the proceedings in dispute. It's not the timing of the proceedings, it's whether the grand jury transcript is complete. Here's Halligan's explanation for those missing pages. Put that up for you. She claims that for those 2 hours, the grand jury was deliberating. And remember, I said that doesn't have to be transcribed. That's their back and forth. She wasn't in there, according to her, nor was the court reporter. So therefore, there's nothing to transcribe, as the deliberations don't get transcribed. Okay, that would be technically correct, perhaps. Although, why it took her a day to figure that out is beyond me. I mean, she could have just said that in court. She was there, after all. She could have later added the declaration. I mean, typically what you would say is, if you're remembering, oh, that's what happened, you'd flag it for the court. You want to assuage the court's concerns. You don't want them thinking, there's a big problem here. And tell them, hey, we're going to get back to you on that and clear that up and make sure you check your notes, check with the court reporter, et cetera, and then you prepare your declaration. But you say something in the courtroom. You don't just sit there with this whole question out in the open, which is a very odd scenario that something would not have been transcribed. Really raises a lot of doubts. You don't just sit there silent and then a day later you come up with your explanation for it. However, even her explanation raises some more questions to a discerning eye. Take a look here at paragraph 3. According to her timeline, Halligan says after she left the room with the court reporter, she goes and does whatever she does for a couple hours. She's informed by her first assistant that the grand jury had returned the indictment. First assistant's like the number 2 in the office. They assist the U.S. attorney. That's the same first assistant, by the way, who had been leading the office before she was appointed, and then Halligan kicked her out of the office, removed her altogether. My question, how did the first assistant know that the grand jury had now returned its decisions? Remember, it was kind of hotly contested. They refused to indict on one count with Comey and only indicted on the others. So if the grand jury told the first assistant that, if she went in there, she has to go in with the court reporter, that normally would have been transcribed. So where's that? And how does that square with the idea that Halligan says that Halligan was the only prosecutor in the room with the grand jury? Missing record there. Maybe she just got a note from the grand jury. Possible. But that's another point needs to be clarified. Basically, there's way too much unknown here, and normally there's none of this confusion or question marks about a grand jury. It needs further inquiry. Court reporter needs to corroborate that they left. Probably Halligan is given a sworn declaration, but she may be questioned more. The former first assistant should be questioned to see, hey, what happened there? Did you go into the grand jury? What was going on? There has to be a lot more facts filled in here. And that doesn't even have anything to do with the disqualification. The disqualification, subject for another bit of reporting and coverage and analysis for us, but by Thanksgiving, the court has said they're going to be ruling on the disqualification question. This is simply the blow-up that happened over these missing hours in the grand jury transcript. So we'll keep an eye on it for you, and we'll talk to you soon.
Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.